the American Stonehenge. That was the name given by many to the Georgia Guidestones, a 19-foot tall granite monument weighing over 230,000 pounds with advanced astronomical features and cryptic engravings. In 2022, the Guidestones were damaged by a bomber and were suspiciously dismantled by local authorities later that very same day. Today, we will discuss the mysteries of who built the Guidestones and why they were destroyed. Welcome to Fact and Suspicion. I'm your host, Dan, here with my co-host, Ben.
Hello.
And today we're going to be discussing the Georgia Guidestones. Now, this is something that I've actually followed for maybe about the past 10 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. And since I've known what the Guidestones were, I thought they were really interesting.
So it's a topic I know almost nothing about. I know there's some conspiracy theories about it. And I've heard, since I've never actually seen them, I can't confirm, I've heard that they say something about population control.
It would be hard to make a case that they don't talk about population control. Yeah. Now, and I've got to say, when the Guidestones were built, these people were asking for conspiracy theories. I mean, you just can't.
I've never seen them. Do they look just really cryptic? And
okay, so you basically have 4 giant tablets. And each tablet will have 2 sides, so you have the same inscription written on each side in a different language.
When you say tablets, do you mean like 10 Commandment style?
Yeah, it's just a really big 10 Commandments looking tablet, right? 10 statements, rules, listed. So you have them in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian.
So each tablet says the same thing, just in a different language?
Right. So you've got 4 tablets. You've got 8 sides with two sides to each tablet. So there's one language on each side of a tablet.
All right.
And they all say the same thing, just different languages. And then basically you have these 4 big tablets set up there. And then there's one center sort of granite beam. And on top of all 5 pieces is a big capstone.
Okay.
All right. If you were to look at it from above, it looks sort of like a cross with a square in the middle of it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So they do look kind of crazy. And then they have, you've got a hole drilled through, I think it's the center stone, or was, obviously you can't see anymore. It's not there now, but there was a hole drilled through the center stone where if you looked at it at any point, it would focus, point you directly at the North Star, Polaris.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then there's another slot that would show the movement of the sun at noontime all throughout the year. So just some kind of cool little stuff like that.
How did these play during the Satanic Panic?
Well, everyone assumed that it was involved with Satan worship.
Well, okay.
I mean, and that was going to happen in Georgia anyway, right? So, I mean, you have to expect that, even if this is just astronomical stuff on it, right? And it's not really that advanced. It's advanced if you're a granite, someone that builds granite stuff, like you would have no idea how to do this. But it's not that hard these days for some astronomer to take a computer and figure out how to do this stuff, right?
Right.
But you put all that stuff on there, people are going to think it's sort of pagan, something like that, even though it really has nothing to do with paganism. The Atlanta pagan community did sort of adopt this place for a while, though. They thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, it gives off some weird vibes. So
what was the point exactly?
Who knows, really? Well, we're going to get into that. Let's talk about the history of it, though, and then we'll talk about, when we talk about the messages on there, we'll talk about the point and everything, right? So now this was not really an ancient mystery. If you were listening to the intro, I think it's old. These were unveiled in 1980. But it is a mystery. It's a mystery because the man that commissioned these remained anonymous. He didn't want his name to ever be known. He went by the pseudonym Robert C. Christian. Or
that's not suspicious at all.
R.C. Christian. No, not at all, right? No, why wouldn't you? But yeah, he went by pseudonym. June of 1979, he goes into the Elberton Granite Finishing Company to order these Guidestones.
Okay.
He speaks with Joe Findley, who's the president of the company, and Joe thinks this man is crazy. Fair enough, right?
Seems reasonable.
Joe just puts a price on this, a huge price tag, something ridiculous.
Thinking it'll be prohibitive.
Yeah, it's like, this guy's not going to pay that. And R.C. Christian said, let's do it.
Oh, wow.
No problem.
So a wealthy, crazy person.
Well, he said that he was a member of a group of people that wanted to bring in a new age of reason. So
Wait a minute. Did he give the name of this group?
No. Nope.
Okay, no wonder there's conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it screams like almost like Bilderberg or something.
Right.
Right.
I mean, at least Bilderberg, we know where they meet.
Right. These people,
who they are.
No idea who they are. And well, we sort of have an idea nowadays, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Actually, it's pretty much known nowadays who R.C. Christian was. We don't get to that until later on.
Okay.
But, not 100% confirmed, but
pretty solid.
Pretty damn solid. Right. Now, going forward, though, obviously, you're going to have trouble funding this and remain anonymous, right? Because you have to have a bank account to transfer the money to for the construction, things like that. So Findley points R.C. Christian to a local banker in Elberton named Wyatt Martin. Right. Now, Martin said, obviously, I cannot set up a bank account for you without a real identity. Right. So Christian agreed to reveal his identity to Wyatt Martin if Martin would swear never to reveal it to anyone else. Okay. And that's what they did. Martin never told anyone. Martin set up the account. They transferred the funds into it, and they paid for the monument.
All right.
Now, going forward, as I said, it didn't take him that long to build this. It was unveiled in 1980. And let's go ahead and discuss what's on this thing now, right? We talked about all the languages. We talked about the astronomical features. But you have your 10 rules.
So what kind of advice does it give for humanity?
Right. Number 1, maintain humanity. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature.
Wait a minute. Okay, couple questions there. First of all, what was the population in the 80s?
At the time, we're looking at about 4.5 billion.
And how did he think we were going to get to that number?
Now, well, here's where you get into some pretty controversial stuff. I will say, though, most people think this is supposed to be a set of rules for how to rebuild society after some kind of major collapse. Okay. So maybe population is supposed to be below that anyway. But controlling population at a set number is something that you...
Practically impossible?
Practically impossible. How are you going to do that anyway?
You're going to... draconian measures it would take.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's sounded a bit Chinese.
Yeah.
You know, and to actually get down, if we were at the 4.5 billion we were at then and wanted to get down there, it would be much worse than what China does.
Yeah.
Oh God, I mean, yeah. You're basically killing people off. It's just it's ridiculous to think that you could actually do that. So that's where we start with our...
explain where we get that number at?
This is just what they think that
the planet supports.
The planet would support with everyone living comfortably.
Okay.
Now, number 2, wait till you hear this one.
All right.
Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity.
So, eugenics?
Eugenics.
Lovely.
So, like I said...
I can't imagine why anybody was suspicious of these things.
We go from population control to eugenics. Now... obviously, I don't think I have to go into why that's controversial. Right. Well, we're getting into Nazi theology, Nazi, science at this point, eugenics.
There were quite a few Brits and Americans who supported that as well. So
there were. I'm just saying, like, you tie this straight back to Hitler, though, it's kind of hard to. There's no arguing about it. We know why this is bad. You can't tell people who they can have a child with and whatnot.
Right.
Obviously, if you were a very athletic person and you think, I want to have a very athletic child, so you go find a husband or wife who's also very tall and athletic and want to have a child with them, that's fine. But you can't have a government dictating who gets to have children with who. It's absolutely insane, inhuman. It's terrible. Number 3, unite humanity with a living new language.
How so? They're wanting people to invent a new language that everyone speaks, like a common tongue from an RPG,
something like that, or was it Esperanto? They did that with back in the 70s, 80s, something like that. They tried to do it.
I don't know anything about that.
I can't remember if it was Esperanto, Esperanzo, something like that. They tried to invent a new language that everyone could learn. Didn't work out at all. But here's the thing: if this is, let's say, this is a some guidelines for when you're rebuilding society, don't you think people are going to have a lot more to worry about than coming up with a new language for everybody to learn, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Number 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. I'm all for ruling with reason.
Seems reasonable advice.
That's absolutely reasonable, right? But you had some very religious people, especially a lot of Christians here in the South, that were very upset about this because to them faith is everything. Right. You don't rule faith with reason. You obviously that's the top of your line is faith there. That's all you're thinking about. So you have a lot of people that are upset about that, and that created controversy for this rule as well. Even I think that's a pretty good rule. Like, let's use
generally
reason,
speaking, right.
Number 6, let all nations rule internally.
Though, considering they were just talking about eugenics, I don't know exactly what reason means to these people.
No, I don't either. I don't either. Sometimes I wonder if if they even agreed on all the things on the list, right? Because some of these just don't seem to go together. Let's have reason in all things. Don't let those people breed.
Right. I mean, I honestly, I'd really like to know who they are.
Right, exactly. Now, I was getting to number 6. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external conflicts in a world court.
So, still have independent nation states, but make them subordinate to some sort of world court?
Yes. So, but let's look at this. We're looking at a new world language
Don't
and
they
a
see
new
the contradiction there?
world court. A lot of people are reading New World Order from this.
I mean, at least they didn't say, one world government.
Yeah, at least they didn't say that. Number 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials.
I mean, I can get behind that.
I can too, but
considering I got pulled over the other night because I left my damn blinker on. It's a blinker.
I understand. I understand completely. And I agree with that as well, but it seems like a strange thing to be on the list with God reproduction wisely.
Right, it really does, doesn't it?
Under 500,000. Balance personal rights with social duties. That's number 8.
I mean, doesn't every nation already do that to some extent?
Seems like it.
Now, I can see some libertarians getting really upset about that.
I understand that. And everyone has their own philosophy. Number 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite.
So does that mean God?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it. Or maybe it's supposed to be whatever you think of as God.
It's the infinite? Okay.
Yeah, the infinite. So again...
I mean, if they were a cult, they were like a really progressive cult.
I mean, I'm fine with this. That's a great thing to have on there. But again, you're really mixing the list up here with no more than 500,000 people, and then all Zen being right. Here. I don't know. And number 10, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature.
So that an
leave room for
environmentalist
nature.
Message?
Well, they put leave room for nature twice.
Right.
They're really harping on that. So yeah, so definitely at least some kind of sort of conservationist. I don't know.
That sounds a little pretentious, honestly.
It does, though. It does seem to go back to that maintain humanity under 500,000 or 500 million rather, because it's the same kind of thing. The Earth just can't support that many people. Which I understand. And I'm not necessarily saying that our current population levels are sustainable or whatnot, but I mean...
They seem to be.
They seem to be. I'm not saying I understand all the science behind it, right? I can't make that judgment, but we seem to be doing okay at the moment.
I know a lot of economists are absolutely against notions of population control.
Right. Well, it seems to go against the natural flow of things with humanity.
Yeah, I won't pretend to understand economics.
Well, I mean, we definitely try. That stuff seems to not make a lot of sense, though. But they're your 10 rules, your sort of 10 commandments they've put up here.
So there's exactly 10.
Exactly 10. I don't know if it's supposed to mirror the 10 commandments. Some people think it's supposed to almost parody them, though I don't really see that. Like they say that the RC Christian title was meant to just parody the 10 commandments and make this new thing like a somewhat anti-religion. I don't really see that myself. There were one of the big excuse me, I meant to add this in. Also written there on their plaque explaining everything says, "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason."
Where we control who people can have sex with?
Well, seems so. Well, or maybe we...
And murder, I don't know... What? How many people would they have to kill? You said how many were?
It would have been at least 4 billion.
4 billion,
point.
yeah.
And
No, I guess being really charitable, we could assume that maybe they were saying that if you put certain population controls in, you could lower it to that over time. If we're being really generous.
I mean, you could do that slowly over time, but I don't see how. I don't see how you can control human population that way. Like it's really hard to say to someone you can't have children, or regardless of that, you can have one child, or maybe, well, you're not physically fit enough, you can't have any children.
Right.
You know, that's just not something you can do. It's to a lot of people. I know not everyone, like their entire driving life is to have children, right? So that's a very big deal to some people. It's not right to take that right away from someone, obviously. And you know, we've dealt with that in the U.S. It's like back in the 70s, I think there were still forced sterilization of Native Americans. Maybe even in the 80s.
I believe we had forced sterilization of certain mentally ill people as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, that happened as well. It did. Well, I'm not trying to...
It's not a totally foreign concept.
It's not a totally foreign concept. And I will say, at least with the mentally ill, like maybe they thought they were... Here's the thing. At least it's not an entire ethnic group like they do with the Native Americans.
Right.
But still, you can't do that to mentally handicapped either. It's just not right. Now... moving forward, though, I do want to say, like, some of the conspiracy theorists. Obviously, you have the New World Order conspiracy theorists here, right?
Yeah, but that's not like a cohesive conspiracy theory. That's just like a
conspiracy
boogeyman.
Yeah, it's like a sort of big overarching thing. Everyone points out New World Order, but obviously that is terrifying to some people to hear New World Order.
Right.
Yeah. One of the major theories behind this is that this was built by the Rosicrucians, which were an ancient order of Christians who were, what's the best way to describe them? Sort of scientific or logical Christians. You know, they try to tone down the overt spirituality of it and put in reason.
People
with religion.
suspect Francis Bacon was one, right?
They do, though there's really no proof that anyone was ever a Rosicrucian.
Or
like
should
we
I
don't
say Shakespeare. Speaking of conspiracy theories,
there's a big one right there. Don't talk about Shakespeare didn't exist. They're going to get in all kinds of trouble with that, sir. And there's a lot of people that don't like that one.
Well, I don't believe
I don't either, but people get mad about that one. At any rate, though, we don't know that the Rosicrucian Order ever really existed, but their emblem is the Rose Cross. So as I was talking about earlier, when you look at the Guidestones from above, you have it looks like a cross with sort of a block in the middle, and that looks a lot like their emblem, that the rose in the middle of the cross. So people kind of read into that. Also, there's the RC Christian, the pseudonym, Rose Cross Christians.
Okay.
So that really does go with it, but like we don't know that the Rose Christians ever really existed. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, they thought that there was satanic worship going on here. You have had tons of graffiti over the years at the Guidestones. People coming in, spray painting, you know, get rid of these Satanists, things like that. People thinking it was pagan, just because, you know, you look through it and see the North Star.
Right.
But
basic astronomy.
Yeah. Well, I think they draw correlations between this and Stonehenge.
Right.
Which R.C. Christian had actually said that he saw Stonehenge and was really inspired by it and wanted there to be something like that here in the U.S. This is nowhere near as advanced as Stonehenge, though.
Right.
Like Stonehenge is like it would be hard for us to figure out how to build something like Stonehenge now, right? You know, with all of the ways that the sun, the stars, everything works Stonehenge. This was very easily figured out by, you know, some astronomers,
right,
how to do this. So this is not like Stonehenge. And just because, you know, Stonehenge, there were, you know, ancient pagans that used Stonehenge, we think, at any rate, people think that this is a pagan thing. And it really doesn't make sense.
You'd think they'd wanted to avoid that comparison.
Maybe, but we don't really know what R.C. Christian was thinking about when he set this up.
Fair.
But to me, what gets really crazy about the Guidestones is not, you know, as much why they were built, I mean, I can see someone being kind of crazy and thinking this will be great. Let's do this.
Right.
We've got more money than sense. Let's put our ideas out there for everyone. I can totally see some millionaires doing that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That makes total sense to me. So that's possible. But the fact that this was bombed and local authorities demolished the rest of it. So basically, when it was bombed, a bomb.
This was recent, right?
Yeah, in 2022, July of 2022. It was bombed, and one of the tablets was damaged very heavily. One of them fell.
Okay.
Later that day, local authorities demolished the rest of it for safety reasons. But they hadn't even had time to really investigate properly at that point. It hadn't even been 24 hours, right?
Why would they destroy evidence that was left behind?
Why would they destroy the Guidestones themselves that were left behind?
I mean,
you still had 3 tablets standing.
I mean, was it on public or private property?
So it was, here's the deal. I should have explained this earlier. When they decided to build the Guidestones, R.C. Christian found a piece of land, and it was in the middle of this guy's farm. Mm-hmm. And he bought a small piece of that land from the farmer. Left the farmer the grazing rights, actually.
Okay.
Built the Guidestones on it, and deeded the Guidestones and that land over to the local government. So it would become public land.
Gotcha.
Now... again, this was on public land. There were cameras even. The GBI released a video of the bomb going off and a video where you could see the car. So this is showing the car in question, the suspected car. They wanted information on this car, right?
They ever find them?
No, they never made any progress at all. And from what I understand, read this in several articles, they never even really decided what kind of bomb it was. Oh. I've heard a lot of different reports on that, so I can't promise that, but you can look at different articles and find different things about the bomb.
They had the van on video?
Or the car, yeah.
The car, and that they never got any further than that?
Well, they couldn't really get the license plate off of it, but they saw the car, and they just never made any progress in the case. Never figured out who did this. Like I said, later that day, demolished it.
What safety reasons could they possibly be? They thought the other ones would fall over and hurt somebody?
That was the argument. I don't know if it was true or not. You would think they would... Well, I say you'd think they'd want to rebuild the monument. I don't know. Obviously, there's some very weird stuff in there. It's very controversial. So maybe not.
If it was causing any sort of public uproar, it might have been better for the government to get rid of it anyways.
Honestly, I kind of feel like they were glad to be rid of the headache when someone bombed it and they could get rid of it.
Right.
Though I do think it's strange the way they just never tried to solve it. Like, it's almost like they wanted this done. Like, this was an inside job, maybe someone bombing it. I don't know. I can't say that for sure, but that's getting a little bit into tinfoil hat theory territory. But I think it's a pretty good one, honestly. It's especially the way they never investigated it. Now, the city council voted to return the land back to the original owner, the farmer.
Okay.
After that, so he's got the land back. But we're still left with who had this built, who did this. Right. Well, that's actually basically been solved at this point.
Okay.
So, as I said, R.C. Christian never wanted to be known. But if you'll remember the banker.
Right, he told him.
Wyatt Martin. He told him who he was. Well, Martin and R.C. Christian corresponded for years and years and years until R.C. Christian's death, actually.
Okay.
Sometime in the 2000s. Now, Martin kept all these letters that he sent him. All right. Now, in the 2010s, at some point, a crew was doing a documentary film about the Georgia Guidestones, and they went to interview Martin. Wyatt Martin had all these letters, and they wanted to see the letters. So he is showing them to him, but he's being very careful to cover up the postmark and the
it had the real name on it?
Yeah. Well, it didn't have the name, but it had the address.
Okay.
So he's covering up the postmark and the return address to make sure it was covered, right? But he had them all in a box down here on the floor while he was picking it up. And the guy running the camera was able to sneak and get a close-up in the box and get the return address off one of the letters.
I bet he wasn't happy about that.
I would say not. And honestly, I feel like that was kind of wrong. I feel like he
let them into his home to show them.
And you're really abusing this privilege you have with this man. So shame on you guys. But we know who he was now, right? So, people look up the address. They find out it's a man named Herbert Hensey Kirsten.
I mean, I can't promise I wouldn't have done the same thing.
Obviously, right? I
But shame on you.
Blow the top of it, but still, I think it was wrong, right? A man named Herbert Hinsey Kirsten. Now, like I said, this has not been 100% confirmed.
Should I know that name?
No, I'm just pointing out. Kirsten, though, is a German form of Christian, basically.
Okay.
And this was he was German, like by birth, but not. He was an American citizen.
Okay.
Right, and he was a World War II vet. Had 4 children.
Okay. Oh,
Mr.
wow.
Population Control.
Wow, 4 children.
4 children. He had some friends that were really into the whole population control.
Let's be honest, though. The population control was not for him.
Obviously
and any
not.
of his friends.
No.
I mean, let's be clear.
And we're going to get into that just a little bit more because he had friends that were really into the whole eugenics thing.
Right.
And here's the big nail in the coffin, which I guess when you know this and then the Guidestones get destroyed, you don't rebuild them when you find out this, right? This man was a supporter of David Duke.
Oh, wow.
So,
what nationalist guy?
Yeah. So if any of you don't know, David Duke was a politician from New Orleans who was a former
KKK.
Grand Dragon of the KKK.
Right.
Very racist, very much into eugenics.
When you say supporter, did he fund him or?
He was a believer in his ideology. I don't know that he ever gave money to him, but he had voiced support for David Duke.
Okay.
All right, if that makes sense. So when you got, I guess that makes sense why they would want to get rid of it, right? Like if you have this monument and then this is tied to...
I guess we know what populations we're going to be controlled now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you know. Now you know, right? As I said, though, what I want to highlight here, though, is that this man, Mr. Kirsten, obviously didn't feel like the rules applied to him.
Right.
Obviously was not... he may have had a few good ideas about ruling with reason and whatnot, but he obviously was... Some of his opinions were based on very terrible logic and racism. And I think that's why the Guidestones were probably bombed. I think it was someone that knew that.
Oh, was that well known by this point?
Well, it's not as well known as it was. Became very well known after they were destroyed. Mm-hmm. But you did have a lot of people that already knew that.
What documentary was this?
It's called Dark Clouds Over Elberton. You can watch it on Tubi.
And when did it come out?
It came out in 2015. I believe.
So it had been out for a while before they were bombed.
It was, I don't remember if it came out in 2015 or maybe it came out in 2016.
Okay.
I have to look that back up. I just noted the title of the documentary. I've watched it before, but yeah, it's very interesting. You should check it out, especially if you're interested in the Guidestones. But like I said, a lot of people knew who R.C. Christian was at that point in time, but the Guidestones became huge news again once they were bombed.
Okay.
Right. And if you take the climate of 2022, the unrest, political, racial tensions, if somebody knew that this was, built by someone who was a supporter of David Duke, I can understand it getting bombed. Like it's just the kind of thing that was going on at the time. Right. I'm not saying you should ever bomb a monument. Right. But it also makes sense as to why the local government would.
I mean, it certainly could have had something to do with it.
Why would I want to rebuild this? But you also have to consider, it could have still just been someone thinking there was satanic worship going on here. I mean, there have been a lot of reports. I've read articles that there have been chickens sacrificed at this place, and I don't know if it was people actually trying to do rictuals or people just trying to make it look like someone did a ritual, right? Because you have a lot of that.
Did they find blood and bones or something?
Yeah, all just whole chicken carcasses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
I hope it was someone trying to make it seem like a chicken sacrifice.
Yeah. But I don't know. I can't imagine someone actually sacrificing a chicken at Georgia Guidestones, but there are crazier things have happened, right? I mean, there's definitely stuff like that happens in Savannah right now, the voodoo community down there. People do stuff like that. Voodoo
community in Savannah?
God, yes. You didn't know that?
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. We should do an episode about Savannah, actually.
Okay.
Savannah's really interesting. But yeah, you had a lot of stuff like that in certain areas of the South. I don't know if Elberton, what the climate there is like. Otherwise, I know there's a lot of very religious people there. So they see the Satanism. You have other people that are seeing the racism. I guess this was bound to happen at some point.
I thought New Orleans was the only place in America where anybody practiced voodoo.
Oh, no. Savannah, Charleston, a lot of the sort of low country areas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still that there for sure. Yep. Well, at any rate, though, that is the Georgia Guidestones, the mysteries of it, why it was bombed. Though I still wish I'd seen them at some point, like in person.
Would have been
Like,
nice.
I thought this was pretty cool. And I kind of wish they were still there. I get like why the messages are weird, but it's still a cool little piece of history, right?
Yeah.
That someone actually did that and tried to be all mysterious and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Really crazy.
I'd like to know how much they spent.
Yeah, I don't know the number on that. I don't know exactly where to find it either, though I'm sure it's recorded somewhere, but none of the articles I found actually listed the actual price of the Guidestones. It's the information has to be there somewhere.
And more specifically, what that would be equivalent to in current dollars.
Enough they could have done something better with it. I promise you. I promise you could have done better work with that money than build the Georgia Guidestones. Especially like you're so arrogant you think that your advice is going to help rebuild the world, right?
Right.
But like I said, I still think it was a cool piece of history. I still wish it was still there. But at any rate, this has been our latest episode of Fact and Suspicion. We hope you have enjoyed it. We hope we didn't get a little too crazy with conspiracy theories on this one. I don't think we did.
We mixed it up a little.
Mixed up a little bit. We'll see you guys again soon. And please, if you like our content, interact with it some way. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Give us some kind of feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.